To call to order the Health and Human Services and Aging Committee, Wednesday, July 27th. Roll call, please, Madam Clerk.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's 1:01 p.m., and as a reminder to all in attendance, this meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the county's YouTube page. Calling the roll, Ms. Conwell.
Present.
Mr. Sweeney is absent. Mr. Miller.
Here.
Ms. Stevens is absent. Ms. Turner.
Present.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Has anyone signed in for public comment?
No public comment has been received.
Okay, we have the approval of the minutes from the June 29th meeting. Can I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved by Turner, seconded by Miller. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Right. Madam Clerk, if you could read the first item into the record.
Resolution 2022-0219, authorizing an amendment to a master contract with various providers for community-based services to support at-risk children and families in Cuyahoga County for the period April 1st, 2021 through March 31st, 2022, to extend the time period to December 31st, 2022, to expand the scope of services, to add data collection and sharing capacity building, staff, training, and marketing services, effective April 1st, 2022, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $3,705,800.71 for the following providers. 1, contract number 1098 with Catholic Charities Corporation in the amount not to exceed $497,389.25. 2, agreement number 1099 with City of Lakewood in the amount not to exceed $344,558.96. 3, agreement number 1100 with Cuyahoga Metropolitan Housing Authority in the amount not to exceed $277,890.72. 4, contract number 1101 with East End Neighborhood House in the amount not to exceed $326,909.21. 5, contract number 1102 with Harvard Community Services Center in the amount not to exceed $352,816.46. 6, contract number 1103 with Murtis Taylor Human Services System in the amount not to exceed $743,273.13. 7, contract number 1104 with the Centers for Families and Children in the amount not to exceed $302,117.21. 7, contract number 1105 with University Settlement Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $524,521.30. And 8, contract number 1106 with West Side Community House in the amount not to exceed $336,324.47.
There we go. Good afternoon. Marcos Cortez with Division of Contracts, Administration, and Performance for Health and Human Services. Again, you heard some great detail from Andrea. This is a contract amendment to a master for our community-based collaboratives to extend the time and to add funds and to add additional scope of services, which include data collection and sharing. This will allow us to do some continuous quality improvement evaluations, some capacity building to help us seek out some additional funding opportunities, the CBS training, staff training, lead some efforts to develop and coordinate community immersion and experience training for DCFS, and some marketing. So allow us to share our mission, objectives, and success stories with other collaboratives and community organizations. I can answer specific questions related to the process of this contract amendment, but we have experts here from DCFS, Jacqueline Fletcher, and partners from our collaboratives who can answer questions related to the program itself.
Okay, Marcos, what changes were implemented in this contract, if any?
The changes are the expansion of the data collection, the capacity building, the staff training, and the marketing, along with the additional funding.
Okay, and it was April, so give us an explanation of why the contract is just now coming before us.
I can provide some background, but I think Jackie might have some additional. I believe we issued an RFP for these additional services back in early 2020. It might have been January or February. We received 0 responses to that RFP. So I believe afterwards there were some negotiations with various county departments, with DCFS, with us, and with the providers to figure out a way to implement these changes. That took some time, and unfortunately that's the time led till now.
Any questions from, for Mr. Arcos?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I would just like to make everyone aware that that my wife works as a counselor for the Centers for Families and Children. So out of an abundance of caution, I'm going to recuse on this legislation.
All right. All right, if the director wants to come up and add some additional. To why we are, if the RFP was released in January 2022, or from your knowledge, because I know you're just freshly on board.
Fresh, it's week 4, but that's okay. Good afternoon, Council. Jacqueline Fletcher, Children and Family Services. As Marcos pointed out, we did issue a proposal, an RFQ for those additional services to be sort of included in the scope of service for our collaboratives. And again, we didn't receive any proposals. So we talked about, what opportunities, knowing that this is a valuable component to the services that we all partner on, what can we do? So we decided to do an amendment to the master contract to fold those services into the contract. And again, that took a little bit of time to issue that, and then to also get all of the signatures that we needed back in time. We missed it by 1 day to walk that on to you guys' calendar. So again, some of this, we certainly apologize, but we know this is a value-added resource to the scope of service for the collaboratives and the community.
Okay, Director, I was, one of the reasons that was shared with me was the way, since it's a master contract, each entity has to be, turn in their paperwork and things of that nature in a timely fashion. But then there was a holdup with one of the providers, with the lawyers and the agreement with the contract. So that was one of the major reasons that was told to me that the contract was late as well.
Correct. Because of the nature of the contract being a master contract, you have 13 entities included on the contract. You really have to ensure that each entity provides within a timely manner the prerequisite data, the signatures are required. So we went in, about trying to get those in a timely manner. I know the providers are here and they can speak to maybe some internal challenges that they may have, but we spoke and, we're all working in tandem together to try and make sure they understand what those time frames are and what's at stake if there's any delays.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Councilwoman.
I find it disappointing that consistently we see these come to us late. And it's fortunate for the department that it's children that we're talking about, and so I don't want it to be council's fault that we delay this work any better. But it seems unprofessional to me that staff knows about these deadlines. And if you're talking about a day too late, why didn't you just call the chair or myself or someone on the committee and fall on the mercy of the council? And we would have reached out to our clerk and across the aisle to make sure this got into the system to move it faster. Because what happens now is we have a backlog of things And in the fall, when we shut down, we will have nonprofit agencies that are delayed in their ability to get money from us. So I think that this needs to change. And usually it's just my chair making that statement. But today, I'm making the statement with my chair that we don't want to accept this any longer. You're new, and under your leadership, we'd like to see this change.
Duly noted. We believe that to be the case as well. Marcos has returned, and to give a little bit of more context too.
Yeah, no, first, I apologize for the lateness. As Jackie mentioned, because of the nature of this contract, that being a master, all of the vendors have to sign. And when they have to sign, they also have to submit all the documentation. The biggest thing, and you've probably heard this over and over again, is getting a compliant certificate of insurance. And those are very specific thresholds that these vendors have to meet. And so we work with them. And so if one isn't able to turn it in on time, then it holds everyone up. But, a lot of times with these smaller agencies, it is harder to get these completed certificates. But we work with them. We actually just recently did a training within our own staff of how to review certificates of insurance to ensure that when we're submitting them for approval, that they're accurate, so they're not kicked back to us. So that would delay the time even further. So we are working internally to try to address some of these slowness issues, to try to make things appear more timely. And in terms of trying to get these on agenda, there are specific processes that we have to follow. These documents have to be put in, they have to go through an approval process to make it not just for council, but for also the Board of Control. Knowing that we can reach out to you specifically to try to get things moving ahead will be helpful in the future.
All right, thank you, Councilwoman Stevens, for your support, and I know from my other colleagues as well. My suggestion was going to be one that was added because I have a very close relationship, or at least I think I do, with the directors and the collabs, because most of them, not all, but most of them are in my district, and so I try to have a rapport, and so I reach out time to time to see if things have. So they have, as a collab, they have a chair and they have a co-chair. And so I think what we could do as, at least on our end, if we do have these hang-ups, is to reach out to that chair and that co-chair so they can disseminate that information to the rest of the collabs in their, I think, monthly meetings or quarterly meetings, that there are some holdups in the contract. You don't have to be specific which agency is having the difficulty, and also to all the collabs. And is everybody here that's on the list, a representative? That's a partnership that they need to be able, when it comes around to this contract, be able to call Marcos or whoever you identify to see what they need to get in. Because I've tried to go around, but it is a master contract, so you can't pick out 3 can move forward and whoever's having an issue. So you guys got to work internally together to try to work on your end to get all the paperwork that you need in. So these can move a lot smoother because unfortunately some, like Murtis Taylor, is a larger agency, but then there's some smaller ones that need that money. And I'll speak to it more later, but the collabs have been open since COVID, so they're partners for us. So, any other questions for them in regards to this contract? I don't want to belabor it any longer. We need to move it on. So,
Madam Chair, I move that we move this to the full body.
Second. All right, moved by Stevens, seconded by Turner. All in favor?
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I think we were going to ask if this could be approved upon second reading.
Oh, we are. I said move it along. That's what I
yes, I'm sorry.
already knew.
Although, if you don't get it to us, why are you asking us to trip over our feet? You need to do your work so we can stay within our processes. Oh, now you're bringing out the heavyweights. All right. I'm
Good
sorry,
afternoon,
Chair, this is not my
Ma-
committee.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and Council. I'm Sabrina Roberts from the Department of Health and Human Services, Interim Assistant Director. Councilwoman, through the chair, Councilwoman Stevens, I hear you.
You know how I am about paperwork.
We will go back, we will look at our internal processes, and part of this may be just a bit more communication when we are hitting this type of roadblock.
So you know I was on your side of the table for how many years?
Many,
And so training, I heard somebody use that word.
many.
It is incredibly important that you work with your subcontractors,
Yes,
vendors.
Yes.
To the point where they can give you the section of the sheet of paper.
absolutely.
that they
You were
answer.
masterful with it in many of your roles. But I want to speak up for the staff. They are working tirelessly, and I know you know that. And they only can move organizations, they can't make them. So we will work in tandem with the organizations to make sure this is more effective as we move forward. Promise. And Marcos is right, training is happening. But you're right, this is for the children. So charge it to the heart and not the head.
We will move
So we
this
will,
forward for
yes.
the children of Cuyahoga.
But we hear you. The reason I came up, I hear you. And I will talk to David, HHS Director, to make sure we're working with Marcos and the team and all providers when we have something like this, a master contract, because it is complex and we need to impress upon the providers how.
So here we are, as a former operator, here we are in July/August. We shut down in November, in essence. If you don't have your invoice here in the right department on November 1st, you may not get paid again until the end of January. And the smaller nonprofits, that stretches them.
So we will take this back and make sure we are communicating in a more robust manner with the providers.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
So
Madam Chair.
Yes, so my suggestion would be always to look at the, back date. How do you get to that date when everything needs to be done? And so,
We will tighten up the flow chart.
all right. So everyone's a witness to that. So this contract has been moved and seconded. All in favor for second reading suspension, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you all.
Thank you.
And one recused.
I was just going to say that.
And one recused.
Thank you.
And Dale did tell me that. Thank you.
And I just want the record to reflect, for roll-keeping purposes, Councilmember Stevens is in attendance. Okay, we're going to go out of order now. We're going to item number G, Resolution 2022-0237, awarding a total sum not to exceed $2,500,000 to the Cleveland Hitchcock Center for Women, Inc., for the purpose of constructing a new treatment center building from the General Fund ARPA Revenue Replacement, the District 7 ARPA Community Grant Funds, and also District 10 ARPA Community Grant Funds.
All right.
Got moved up a little bit. Good afternoon again, Marcos Cortez with Health and Human Services. Again, this is a grant award for Hitchcock Center for Women to construct a new treatment center. My team at the Division of Contracts Administration Performance have been working with council staff and Hitchcock to get this grant agreement approved. We have a representative here from Hitchcock at the Finch Group to talk more about their agency or their project.
Good
Thank you
afternoon.
so much. Jason Joyce, President and CEO of Hitchcock Center for Women. First and foremost, I want to say thank you for having us back, and specifically to Councilwoman Conwell, Councilwoman Stevens, and Councilman Miller for supporting this project individually. Just a brief history. I know I went through the whole PowerPoint last time, but Hitchcock Center for Women, we were founded in 1978. Our two primary services are residential treatment and recovery housing. However, we do offer the full continuum of outpatient aftercare service as well. I think what makes us most unique is that we allow women to bring their children with them while they receive residential treatment and recovery housing. Some other agencies do it up until the age of 5. We do it all the way up until the age of 12. Part of that is our great location with a close proximity to Wilson Elementary School, and we're able to have a strong support there. As far as any other questions go, I'll turn it over to Wes, too. I know he might want to say a little bit about the project, but thank you so much.
Madam Chairman, council members, again, thank you for your continued support of the Hitchcock Center. We became involved actually almost 4 years ago, trying to come up with a way to preserve the existing Hitchcock Center. It's in a 1924 building that has significant deferred maintenance. It's 90-something thousand square feet that they have to maintain, and we came up with an idea of combining their treatment program with permanent supportive housing funded by Section 8. We actually filed this morning with CMHA for that Section 8. The statistics that Jason knows far better than I, the recovery rate increases phenomenally when the people can move from treatment housing to supportive housing, which is performed by Hitchcock, into safe housing. So we've created this one building. It's cost efficient because you have 2 programs sharing one building. It just costs less to build that way. And we are moving forward. We are applying in 2 weeks for the Ohio Housing Bond Funding Gap Program, which will come, if we're successful and it's competitive, which will come with 4% credits, low-income housing tax credits. That will fund this program, and your money, the Arpa funds you're placing in here, which I think were $2,674,000, not $2,005,000. Thank you, Councilperson Miller. Along with the city of Cleveland has already voted in $3.5 million of Arpa funds, and the Cleveland Clinic has committed $2.5 million. So we're roughly $9 million right now. And there's other funding sources for these programs, and the housing will be funded also. I think it's a unique development in an area that needs it, and we're excited about performing it and working once again with a lot of folks here who I've worked with over the years. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you. So I would like to say I've been to Hitchcock Center many times over my tenure. It is located within my district, but it also has the mission is correlated with what we do here at the county, and definitely directly related to Health and Human Services, which I have not always been the chair, but I've always been on this committee as a vice chair. And so I like to visit and see places that actually embodies the work and, the money, the funding that we utilize of our citizens and how they're directly going to these centers to see if they're being utilized right, if they're being effective, whatever we can do, because we're always very willing to talk to whoever we need to move that along. And I saw over those years the deterioration from 12 years ago when I started to now, and I didn't know that I would, be fortunate, or council would be fortunate to have ARPA funds to directly put in this direction. But the administration as well also felt very keen on this project and has supported the needs. My other initial push was because we came up with something great on council around this county, something that we all came up with. How do we effectively assist individuals that have mental or drug addictions and not to criminalize what they do? And that was the diversion center. And so the diversion center, we take males and females, and I asked Brandy Kearney, so where do our women go after their stay at the diversion center? And the primary place was the Hitchcock Center. So in my mind, this was just a continuation, and staff as well as my colleagues are tired of hearing about Hitchcock Center from me. So Well, you
speak for
guys aren't, but
yourself.
staff got me at
Yeah,
lunch today.
'cause,
We
you know,
don't, we
she,
won't
like-
have to hear Hitchcock Center for a
picked
while.
my pocket on this
anymore.
project.
So it's my great pleasure and all of our pleasure if all of our colleagues on August 2nd moves this forward to continue because it's a needed, none of us, I don't know, hopefully my grandchildren will never end up in there, but we just don't know. So it's good for the people today and the people in the future. So any other questions from the
Madam Chair,
colleagues?
could I have them go over the total project costs
Yes, you
again?
can. Just emotional about this one.
The, to Councilperson Stevens through the chairperson, the total development cost between the two components of this one building approximates $26 million. Approximately $14.5 to $15 million of that is for the permanent supportive housing to build 53 units of permanent supportive housing funded in part, almost entirely by Section 8. Just one example is that the landlord will be covering the utilities because we've determined the women who will be moving in here have enough issues in their lives not to have to go out and get their own utility bills and meters. The 36 treatment units and the treatment facility, Jason can go into more detail on, is approximating $11.5 million. That the construction cost is, we're approximating at $255 a square foot. If everything goes as we hope it goes, that we receive the awards that we are seeking, we should start construction in March of next year. Murtis Brothers Construction is doing design build. It's a Cleveland-based firm. Everybody else is just double checking in my head. I believe everyone else is Cleveland-based except for the Finch Group, but we've been in this city now for 24 years doing development and owning property in the city. I can be more specific if you'd like, Councilwoman.
What I really wanted to get on the record was that the little over $2.5 million that we're providing to this project is less than 10% of the total project costs, but it does make the project happen.
It does. It is the final component that brings us together.
And I wanted that on the record.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Madam Chair.
Any other questions?
Madam Chair.
Madam Chair? I'm sorry, Councilmember Miller. I was just going to state that we do have a proposed substitute to bring forward.
Councilman Miller?
So, Madam Chair, my question is, how far away is the new site from where the current facility?
The current facility not only owns its building, it owns a significant amount of land. It is on that land. It is,
On the same site,
I'm going to say, 50 to 100 yards away from the existing building.
okay? And I would just like to say that the Hitchcock Center is a unique agency in Cuyahoga County. It's the only agency that I know of that effectively serves women who are dealing with addiction and also have families, and so it's a very very important program, and the review committee that is considering the applications for District 2 considered this proposal, and we decided to recommend adding an allocation of $174,700 to this project. And so I would like to move the substitute, which you have in front of you, which makes that change.
All right, is there a second for that substitute?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilman Miller and seconded by Stevens to bring the proposed substitute before us as a vote. Any other questions on the proposed substitute at this time? Hearing none, it was moved and seconded. All in favor in moving this to the full council as substituted under,
We should vote on the substitute first.
okay. So it was moved and seconded for the substitute. All in favor for the substitute? Please say aye.
Aye.
Right. Now we will move, thank you, Councilman Miller. We will move this as substituted to the full council under second reading. I can't do second reading suspension. I apologize for that. We will move this to the full council under second reading. All in favor, please say aye.
And I will second that motion.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. So before you read the next item, Madam Clerk, I'd just like to state that there was an agreement amongst council colleagues because these are the dollars and they're one-time dollars, is to make sure that all of council-initiated ARPA fundings would go 3 readings. So I just wanted to let you guys know that. That's why I had to change my thing. Okay, Madam.
Madam
Yeah.
Chair, if you would ask the clerk to add my name.
Yes, and Madam, I'm glad you brought that up, Councilwoman Stevens. If you could, the co-sponsors, I would like them to be sponsors.
Thank you.
You're already on, Stevens.
Oh, I forgot. Just a few things in my head these days.
All right. We are ready for you, Madam Clerk.
Okay, Resolution 2022-0228, awarding a total sum not to exceed $65,000 to the Catholic Charities St. Martin de Porres Family Center for Strategic Plan Development from the District 7 ARPA Community Grant Fund.
And before you guys speak, I think I'm looking at my agenda ahead. Just give a little background history in terms of another one of my passions. But my passions, everybody should know by now, are kids and seniors. So one of my passions was to really take a look at the CARES Act dollars that the county was awarded. And at that time, we were all suffering from wherever we were involving COVID at the time. And so, of course, with the CARES Act dollars, they were more streamlined on how we could utilize them. And we had our own operations that we needed to take care of in the county. So many of those funds, not all, but many of those funds were utilized for the county operations. And so when we were granted this blessing, kind of from the COVID and how it turned out, I really took a serious look of how all the funds that we've had with COVID and how they were utilized, especially across my District 7. And so I felt very strongly that the collabs that are majority in my district they kept their doors open, they continued to operate, they continued to have visitation for kids, give out resources and everything during COVID when many of us were at our homes. So before I knew that county council would get blessed with being able to give ARPA dollars, many of the directors can attest that I set up meetings with them to come out and see what their needs were, because I was going to push for that on my end, that they would be able to get whatever ARPA funds that we had to get a piece of the pie, so to speak. And so then it turned out that county council got to direct some funds directly from their district with all the colleagues voting on that. And so I already had my stuff decided pretty much because I had did the due diligence beforehand to see what the needs were directly in my district. And all of our districts are different. All of them are similar in some ways. We all have individuals that need help. And so I support all the different projects that are going out throughout the county, because those representatives know what their districts need. And so many of the rest of the things on the agenda today, you will hear, they are collab related, but they touch the communities. So, enough of my spiel.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Madam Chair. My name is Carnice McKenzie, and I am the Agency Director for Catholic Charities St. Martin de Porres Family Center. And standing to my right here is Joan Hinkleman, our Senior Director of Family Services with Catholic Charities. Thank you so very much, Madam Chair, for supporting our efforts and listening to us. So often we don't have anyone to hear us, so we are very appreciative that you've taken the time to do so. St. Martin de Porres Family Center is a social service agency located in Glenville, the Glenville neighborhood that has been providing services to our residents and neighboring communities in the Cuyahoga County at large since 1967. St. Martin de Porres has undergone significant changes over the past 8 years, where we have improved service delivery. We've changed our service offerings. We've made great improvements to our physical interior part of our buildings, which we are very proud of. We have also experienced significant loss in funding. In addition, the pandemic was really a reality check for a lot of us, that while we have successfully supported generations, the community for generations, we had to pivot to ensure we responded to the overwhelming needs of the community, as many organizations did to sustain our services that's here today. Therefore, our lessons learned from the pandemic is that we are vulnerable without a strategic direction and priorities to guide us over the next 5 to 10 years resulting from the pandemic. The bottom line is our residents will continue to need services, and they will continue to need the help resulting from the pandemic. As a part of our larger organization, Catholic Charities has identified strategic priorities for our organization. However, St. Martin de Porres needs a more community resident-focused strategy that is aligned with those priorities that will lay a strong foundation for our future. St. Martin de Porres, therefore, is requesting funding to undergo a strategic planning process that will result in a 5-year strategy and a vision for our family center. We would like to hire an experienced consultant to lead an inclusive process to develop this plan. Unlike many requests for one-time funding, the county will be investing in the future of St. Martin de Porres by providing dollars to position us to attract other funders and support our sustainability of the Family Center for the next 10 years and beyond. In partnership with our advisory council and executive leadership at Catholic Charities, we are seeking to launch a strategic planning process that will include an overall assessment of St. Martin de Porres Family Center, where we identify our strengths, our internal strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, analysis of our functional areas, including our staffing, which has been really challenged throughout COVID, and the Family Structure Center, analysis of our funding sources and revenue-generating programs, identification of programmatic issues and areas that need to be addressed that impact sustainability. We would also like to do an assessment of stakeholder engagement, which is vitally critical, including engagement of our leadership, staff, funders, advisory board, and persons served. Facilitation will include an inclusive strategic planning with our leadership team that includes our executive leadership, staff, and identified stakeholders. This process will result in a strategic planning document that will include a strategic direction and vision for St. Martin de Porres, strategic priorities for St. Martin de Porres for the next 10 years, strategic planning goals and tactics for St. Martin de Porres for the next 5 years, a growth strategy, which is very much needed for existing programs and identifying new services, a detailed summary to improve, a strategy to improve the long-term sustainability of St. Martin de Porres, which has been a hallmark in the Glenville community. Any questions?
Thank you. Any questions from my colleague?
Madam Chair,
Councilwoman Stevens?
because some of these I have overlapping
Yes.
tasks in them, the funding that you want from us will specifically go to upgrades in the building or to your
No.
planning process?
This will be for a strategic planning process only. So a strategic plan for St. Martin de Porres. Given the state that we're in with COVID, we just felt like we needed to shift our priorities now to focus on what the needs are for our residents.
You're bringing a third party in to help you do that.
Yes, I am. Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Further? Anything else you guys like to share? Joan, you came out.
I'm just here to support Kearney.
This is my, let the record show, this is my first time before the, for the council.
okay.
So thank you so much for everything. I appreciate it all.
All right, and as I stated earlier, all of ours have to go 3 readings.
Yes.
Anyone would like to make a motion?
I move that we move this to council.
It's been moved and seconded to move this to the full council under second reading. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Resolution 2022-0229, awarding a total sum not to exceed $90,000 to the Catholic Charities Corporation, Fatima Family Center, for furniture upgrades at 6600 Lexington Avenue on the Fatima Family Center campus from the District 7 Arpa Community Grant Fund.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm LaJean Ray. I am the director of Fatima Family Center. Have been at Fatima for 36 years and continue to be a resident of the community for 38 years. To my right is my colleague and friend and partner from Catholic Charities, Joan Hinkleman. Fatima celebrates its 50th anniversary next year. In the year 2000, we built a new facility on the corner of East 66 and Lexington, and that facility was built with the intention of being a greater capacity of service to the community of Huff. In light of all the new development that is coming into our community, the investors, the Cleveland Foundation, the public library, our organization determined that we needed a strategic plan as well. Our strategic plan was completed in May of this year, and as a result of that, some of the things that came out of that endeavor, the process, which was very comprehensive and engaged our community in the planning of, indicated that we really needed to upgrade our facility. It is 22 years old, and we've been intentional about inviting our neighborhood into our building for its own use. We are a voting site. We host the Cleveland Police Awards Banquet every year. We're the place where the Little Leagues come and have their sports banquets, with a place for repasts and baby showers and 100-year-old birthday celebrations, and we've opened our doors to everybody. And in that opening your doors to everybody, there have been a lot of bottoms sitting on our furniture. And so with that, we need new furniture. And we are requesting this council and our chair, who has been so faithful to us, to please consider helping us refurnish and rehab the interior of our building for continued use for the Huff community and District 7.
Thank you. Any questions?
Madam Chair, if there are no questions, I move that we move to the full council.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. It's been moved by Stevens, seconded by Turner. All in favor, will please move this to the full council under second reading.
Aye.
All in
Aye. All in favor? Aye. Thank
Madam
you.
Chair, I have a comment. Hello, Ms. Ray. I just wanted to acknowledge the fact that I went to college with your son, Fred,
Thank you.
and my greetings.
I will.
I don't know if you mentioned weddings. Been to many weddings.
Yes, my son got married at that site. So it is a community site. It is open to everyone in our community, and that has been the intention since its inception.
And the members of D9 will be across the street on Saturday for our annual penthouse
And parking is going to be a problem. Let me say that. The church next door, Father Bob is leaving, and his church picnic and celebration is the same day. So if I were you, I'd park on the next street.
Thank you for that.
Okay?
What day is that?
Sunday, Father Bob's service is at 11 o'clock. That's his last mass, and then the church picnic is at 1 o'clock. So it's going to be a full house. Okay?
Well, thank you for all that you do
You're
for the
welcome.
community.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, it's been moved and all that and voted on. Can you read the next item into the record?
Resolution 2022-0230, awarding a total sum not to exceed $63,000 to the Catholic Charities Corporation Fatima Family Center for the Huff Collaborative Main Office Upgrade from the District 7 Arpa Community Grant Fund.
So at the same time on our site, there's a second building, our Father Albert building, which houses our collab. And in that building, it is really a family building, and we have our family visitation, our parenting classes, our resource support for families that are in the Department of Children and Family Services, and the community members to prevent them from going into the system. And that building is in great need of repair. We need an updated phone system. We need flooring, we need furniture, we need painting, and that $63,000 will cover all of that. We really want our families to be treated with the respect they deserve and have a first-class facility for them to come in and meet with their children. And so we're asking again for $63,000 to support the rehabilitation of that particular facility on our campus.
Director Ray, I take it for that, the dollar amount that you probably had some bids or something like that. Do you know when the work would actually start?
As soon as you tell us the money is coming.
All right. Any other questions?
Chair, I move that we approve this and send it to the full council.
Second.
Moved by Stevens, seconded by Turner. All in favor to move this to the full council under second reading, please say aye.
Aye. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Resolution 2022-0231, awarding a total sum not to exceed $250,000 to East End Neighborhood House, Inc. for the purpose of making various capital improvements from the District 7 ARPA Community Grant Fund.
All right,
Good
welcome.
afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Just waiting for my team to show up. All right. Okay, good afternoon, Madam Chairwoman and Council. Hello, this is my first time as well. My name is Atuna Heron, and I'm the President and CEO of the fabulous East End Neighborhood House. And I brought a group behind me to help support in this request that we submitted. So I would just start by saying the East End Neighborhood House has been a service to the community for the past 115 years. We were incorporated in 1907, and our building is just as old, correct? 1907, providing services to the families from young to our wisdom keepers, and I have two here with me today. The campus is nestled between Woodhill Road, Rose Hill Avenue, and Shaker Boulevard, and we offer acres of space for the community to access compassionate services, thank you, including support of what basic needs, our top quality 4-star child care center, case management services, leadership development, and our fabulous senior center. So through the centennial history of service, East End's team has weathered many challenges and yet never wavering on their support to our individuals and families and children. Most recently, obviously, during the COVID pandemic, East End's team has continued to serve. We were a pandemic site. We never shut our doors. We were providing services for our children, their families, our seniors. Even though the state has shut the senior services down, we still provided adult development congregate to all of our seniors that were homebound, as well as those that came to our building. So we never stopped services. We provided emergency food, internet services, on-site learning during the school. When they were hybrid, we did that. To support all students learning during various shutdowns, as well as a lifeline to many who have felt isolated. So during those times. So we help with the dissemination of vaccines. We were actually one of the spokes in the community that helped when the with the Cleveland State vaccination. We actually help people get vaccinated, our families, our children, and our seniors. And we continue to raise awareness for the value of caring for one another. So again, East End has a history of, in that neighborhood of Woodhill, Buckeye, Woodland, of serving families and communities for 115 years. And I'm very proud to have the team behind me. And I brought two of our wisdom keepers, we call them. And if they want to speak or say something about East End, I would like them to speak.
State your name for the record.
My name is Yolanda Kennedy, and I've been going to East End for the last 2 months. I'm very glad to go because it puts me in contact with other seniors, and they come and get you, they take you home, and it's a real nice atmosphere, and I'm just thankful for it.
And my name is Betty Uti, and I'm also a senior. And I come there because of they have a lot of opportunities there. Just for they have some jewelry class, exercise classes. Plus they feed you so twice. Lunch and dinner. And we gather together and just enjoy being together because we don't want to be alone at home all day long. So I really appreciate East End. And that's it.
Thank you. And again, we call our seniors wisdom keepers. And I also presented or submitted last night to the clerk just a snapshot of East End 2022 and what our house, the funds that we are asking for to help with the renovation of one of the oldest settlement houses in the city of Cleveland. So I pictures of that, as well as our museum that we had established, 2019, I think, 2019. So we're working on the museum, history, and just to refurbish the house. So we're just super excited to be here today.
Any questions from my colleagues?
Madam Chair, like you, I love that phrase, wisdom
Keeper. I'm writing it
Yes.
down, right?
I already texted it to myself in all caps.
We actually have it on our wall in our senior room.
The thought that we appreciate our seniors and ask them to give us their opinions and share with us things that we only learn by age is not done as often as it should. So thank you for doing that on our collective behalf. And to the senior, to the wisdom keepers who are present, someone like myself, I presume others at council aspire to be wisdom keepers like you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Councilman Miller?
Madam Chair, is $250,000 the entire project cost, or are there other funding sources?
Absolutely not. We have just begun the process of a feasibility study that we're working through. So this was really the initial funding. We had asked for $600,000 just to literally start the renovation of the house, and I'm right now working on bids. But we are just at the initial phase of working toward the renovation of our house.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Anything else you'd like to share or the wisdom keepers would like to share?
Anybody else from the team?
Yep.
How about Clay? You want to tell them how long you've been with us, Clay?
Clay always sending me the meeting invites, and I'm always here, so I can never come.
I'm Clay Williams. I've been with East End for 19 years, and it's a great place to work. The atmosphere is very supportive, and I respect the traditions of East End. As she said, it was formed in the Settlement House tradition and has been historical stakeholder in the Buckeye Woodland area 415 years. And that's a lot, because a lot's happened in the last 115 years. In the last 20 years, that costs money. And so we managed to stay afloat. So I have a lot of respect for the agency I work for. Never missed a paycheck.
There it is. Anybody else want to speak?
I would just like to say, I think when I first, during my tenure, I don't think East End was in my district.
Okay.
But over the course of things changing, but as I stated, I've always been on the Health and Human Services Committee, and so I go and visit other collabs that were outside because it has a direct impact of what HHS office does. So, but now it's in my district, and
we're very grateful for that.
And I do believe that I knew you under another capacity, but when I did my initial visits to the collabs, when I knew that many of the cities and counties were going to get Arpa dollars, my discussions and conversations were with the previous director.
Zabala.
So I'm just glad that you've taken, stepped in her her shoes or whatever it is, because she was passionate, and I know you're passionate as well. The individuals in that neighborhood, you have a lot. I think it actually connects with Councilwoman Stevens.
Okay.
I mean Turner.
Well, 10, yes.
So many of our joint residents come there and are treated very well, and so I know your needs were greater than what we were able to provide, and
Well, I'm just going to put on record because you and I didn't know each other. But when I got hired as the COO of East End, you offered and sent me a very beautiful letter. So I thank you for that.
Okay.
And now I know you well.
I try to do those things if I can't come personally. Is there anything else?
Hearing no further questions, Madam Chair, I'd like to recommend that we move forward to the full council.
All right. Is there a second? All right. Moved and
Thank you.
seconded. All in favor of moving this to the full council under second reading, please say aye. Aye. All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Resolution 2022-0232, awarding a total sum not to exceed $700,000 to the Murtis Taylor Human Services System for the Community Center Capital Repair, Renovation, and Expansion Project from the District 7 Community Grant Fund.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair Conwell, Councilmember Stevens, Councilmember Turner, Councilmember Miller. My name is Lavelle Custard. I'm the President and CEO of Murtis Taylor Human Services, and thank you for this opportunity to be here and to talk to you about our organization. We actually will be celebrating our 75th anniversary next year, and I am fortunate to have been with the organization now for 19 years and 20 years as we go into our 75th year of serving the community. Murtis Taylor Human Services is a comprehensive outpatient community mental health center and community center which provides a variety of services from infants to seniors. Our services include feeding the poor. It includes family preservation, early childhood education. If it's a basic human need, we do it in some capacity. If we don't do it directly, we do it through collaboration and collaborating directly with many of the organizations that have spoken here today. The Murtis Taylor Community Center Capital Repair and Renovation and Expansion Project will expand the Catherine R. Tyler Community Center's capacity to serve children, adults, and seniors through addressing critical capital repair and renovation. It includes the repair and renovation of the facility's major systems and client service areas needed to continue serving the community and to expand capacity. The capital repairs and renovations include window system installation, parking lot replacement, HVAC system installation, elevator install, child safety banister system installation, security camera fire burglar system install, and a fire sprinkler system installation. Built in 1971 and acquired by Murtis Taylor in 2014, this facility has served the community for more than 50 years. It includes 26,494 square feet of client service space. The building systems and the client service spaces are currently inadequate and at their end of their current useful life and need repair and renovation. Due to accessibility challenges, more than 40% of the building's community program space is underutilized. This project will make the entire building ADA accessible. The new program spaces will serve children, families, and communities, including the provision of treatment and prevention services. These spaces include a community food service kitchen, community center hall, child and family rooms, community and family pavilion, and a behavioral health treatment clinic. Renovations will begin in January with a November 23 soft opening and a December 23 reopening. The project will retain 9 full-time permanent jobs while the facility is operating. It will create 10 new permanent full-time jobs and 15 temporary labor and construction jobs during the renovation phase. The project will serve adults, children, and families living in Cuyahoga County, some of which live with severe and persistent mental illness. We estimate that 3,400 clients per year will receive services as a result of this expansion, this renovation and expansion. County Council support for this project will allow Murtis Taylor to provide improved social services in Cuyahoga County. This funding will allow Murtis Taylor to continue to enhance its mission of helping to achieve a better quality of life and a healthier community for Cuyahoga County.
Any questions from my colleagues? And Councilwoman Stevens?
Excuse me, Councilmember Stevens, can you speak a little bit louder into the microphone? Thank you.
Council Chair Conwell, Councilmember Stevens, the total project cost is actually $2.4 million. We have multiple requests in to other funders. We requested as a part of our application to the county District 7's through District 7's application process, $892,000, and we were granted $700,000, which we're extremely grateful. We're about $192,000 short of that amount, but we are working with various funders to close that gap.
So this is phase one?
We expect I think referring to it as a phase one and a phase two makes sense. However, from a timing standpoint, we expect to have the entire project done by the end of calendar year 23. I think it's probably better to look at it as part one of a two-part funding project.
We are going to wish you well on obtaining your other funds. Madam Chair, back to you.
Thank you.
All right. Hearing or seeing anything further, and who are some of your other individuals that you're going for funds for?
Sure. We are approaching the City of Cleveland as well as several foundations that provide services, that support services in Cuyahoga County.
All right.
If there are no further questions or comments, I move that this piece of resolution be moved to the full body.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in to move to the full council under second reading. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, just as a reminder, item G was already considered. We're moving on to item number 6, presentation, Legal Aid Society of Cleveland.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Colleen Cotter. I'm the Executive Director at the Legal Aid Society of Cleveland, here today at the chair's invitation from perhaps the last time I was in this room. We're not here asking for money, so you can just all take a deep breath. No, well, not directly. But we want to introduce you to the Legal Aid Society in general. I'm here with my colleague, Melanie Shakarian, Director of Development and Communications. And we have a slide deck we wanted to go through, if that's okay with you,
Yes,
Chair Conwell.
So we know this council is very interested in justice issues and justice reform in Cuyahoga County, and we all know we have the right to an attorney if you can't afford one. And if you watch Law and Order, any of our procedural TV crime shows, it is an often repeated phrase. And everybody is familiar with these Miranda rights thanks to their civics class in grade school, all the way through adulthood, watching these procedural TV crime shows. And it's true, our Constitution does ensure access to no-cost legal counsel when someone is accused of a serious crime and cannot afford an attorney. But we forget from watching those procedural TV shows, we have a bifurcated judicial system. And there's the criminal side of the justice system and the civil side of the justice system. And it's true, on the criminal side of the justice system, you have that right to an attorney. But yet many don't realize that there's no such constitutional right on the civil side of our justice system. Cases which impact shelter, safety, and economic security. And Legal Aid is a private nonprofit, the only one in Northeast Ohio that is serving the needs of folks with low income who face issues on the civil side of the justice system.
So as a result of the fact that there is no constitutional right to counsel on the civil side of our justice system, that has created what is commonly referred to as the justice gap. This is a national reality. Our federal funder, the Legal Services Corporation, conducted a study just earlier this year and found that a staggering 92% of people with low income who need a lawyer don't get a lawyer. Delving deeper into that report, they also found that 74% of people with low income in 2021 had a civil legal problem. So the numbers are staggering. 1.9 million people in this country went to legal aid last year seeking help. And half of them were turned away because of this justice gap, because we don't have the constitutional right combined with there isn't enough funding nationally to meet this need. And it's a growing need. We've seen this locally also. For every 2 people who come to the Legal Aid Society of Cleveland, who qualify for our services, who have a legal problem, we can only take on 1 of them. We have to turn away half of the folks who come to us in need.
So we have to make tough choices every day related to the cases that we take on, but we operate within this theory of change. We have up on the screen this image of a ripple effect. And this idea that a strong legal aid in our community at the core of this ripple works to extend the reach of justice throughout Cuyahoga County. So when we help that mom who is facing eviction on a street that she loves, on a block near the school that her child goes to school, and on a bus line that takes her directly to her job, and if, because of the effects of COVID, she faces an eviction, and she gets that help at that fulcrum point in her family's life to get that assistance to create stability in her housing, prevent the eviction, come to better terms with her landlord, then long term, that child stays in the same school. She continues to live on the street that she loves and gets to know her neighbors, plants flowers in her garden, long-term gets involved with her block club, perhaps becomes a precinct person, gets involved and votes in her community. And long-term, this is our theory of change. When legal aid is in somebody's life and they see that the system is working for them, long-term, that has a really incredible ripple effect on our community. And it's why we do this really important work.
So what does all this mean? How do we put this theory to practice? Our goals in serving our clients, we have 4 main goals. The first is to improve safety and health. So we represent survivors of domestic violence in getting protection orders and custody of their children and possession of their home. We ensure that we address social determinants of health through partnerships with our local hospitals to address issues of poverty that are making people sick. Our second goal is to promote education and economic security, everything from supporting parents who are seeking services for their child with special needs in school to make sure that they thrive. We're a partner with Say Yes to Education, providing legal services to families to remove barriers to education. We remove barriers to employment by sealing old criminal records, helping people get licenses for special jobs. Representation in tax problems and consumer issues, and a wide variety of issues that impact economic stability. We also create safe and healthy housing, preventing eviction, preventing foreclosure, ensuring safety from health hazards in homes like lead, and then finally ensuring that government agencies and our courts are accountable and accessible. Those are systems that are designed to serve the people, but if they are not accessible to people with low income because they don't have the right language, they don't have a fee to pay, then they are in fact inaccessible to people with low income, and we remove those barriers. We serve clients in 5 counties. We actually have sister organizations who serve every county in the state. Our 5 counties are Ashtabula, Cuyahoga, Lake, Geauga, and Lorain counties. About 75% of our clients live right here in Cuyahoga County, and our main office is over on West 6th Street in Cleveland. We serve through our staff and our volunteers, these clients with low income. We're one of the largest law firms in Northeast Ohio. We have 130 staff members, 70 of us are attorneys, and we leverage our staff with volunteers. We have about 3,000 attorneys on our volunteer roles, and in any given year, about 500 of them engage by taking on a case, attending a clinic at one of our strong neighborhood partners, many of whom you saw today earlier. And we're focused on people, families, and individuals with low income. So we serve people who are at 200% of the federal poverty guidelines and below, which is in the mid 50,000 range for income. So these are folks who cannot afford to purchase the services of a lawyer in any of our communities in Cuyahoga County. 71% of our clients are women, many of whom are women with children, and about 24% of our clients last year were seniors, people 60 and above.
So as I mentioned, we're the only law firm in Northeast Ohio focused on serving the needs of families with low income. And in that capacity, we are problem solvers. So on your screen, you see the variety of different problems we solve, and we solve problems in a variety of ways, not just through legal services, although that's the most important. That's a specialized skill that we have to help community members. But in addition to that, community engagement and education, we are out there working to prevent legal problems by educating people about their rights and how they can access important services on their own. We do quite a bit of advocacy, looking at what larger problems there are to solve and what policy and procedure changes we can work for, and then partnerships. And it's super heartwarming to be here today with colleague organizations who were getting funding recommendations heard by this body because just, for instance, this past weekend, we were at the Fatima Family Center and served 35 families within just an hour and a half who had legal needs. And so we are in the community doing this work in partnership with the clients who need our help.
And I want to highlight some of the ways that we're already in partnership with Cuyahoga County. We have several funding sources currently through the county, and we're very grateful for those. We provide representation for children who are in the county system to help them with educational issues. And so these are referrals directly from staff who work for the county who identify that a child who they're case managing for is struggling in school. And so we are there to make sure that they're getting the services to succeed. We receive grants for foreclosure prevention work and for our tenant information line. We answer questions for tenants, giving them information, and that's supported by county funds to serve veterans. And just a couple weeks ago, the County Council approved ERA 2, Emergency Rental Assistance 2 for legal aid. We have ERA 1 and 2, and then we do have several requests for ARPA funding pending. But then we also, beyond dollars, have deep partnerships in various county agencies and councils and offices. We work closely with the Public Defender's Office. We have a benefits access partnership that works with Health and Human Services, with Homeless Services, the Office of Reentry, Department of Consumer Affairs, and of course the courts and the Citizens Advisory Council on Equity. And at the heart of this, as Melanie said, we're problem solvers. And so we're focused on results. We are not an academic organization or a theoretical organization. We are an organization that's focused on results for our clients. We seek partnership with organizations to provide funding. We see it's very important to us to steward those dollars well and have a return on that investment in the community. So last year, we assisted nearly 17,000 people through over 7,000 cases, and we helped thousands more through digital outreach and personal outreach, getting the word out, empowering the community to know their rights. And we provided information to more than 2,000 people through our worker information line and our tenant information lines.
And your investment in our work means so much to us, and we take that investment very seriously. And it's more than just this council and Cuyahoga County, but literally thousands of supporters throughout Northeast Ohio. And we track outcomes of our cases, and a few examples are up here on the screen because we want you to feel proud of that investment and know that it has been stewarded well. And we're just going to end before we take questions with some highlights related to how we've grown due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And already there was a lot of need in Cuyahoga County before COVID, and we've seen even more. We're trending a 20 to 30% increase, 30 to 35% increase specifically with our housing cases. And we've grown and continue to need to grow our outreach and our advocacy and legal representation work because of the growing needs in Northeast Ohio. We've also been flexible for our clients. We've added new virtual brief advice clinics while still coming back into the neighborhoods to serve folks. We added these information lines, so people who want to call with just a quick question, and added a Spanish online intake portal just in the past year. And we do have some ARPA requests that have been submitted to all of the different districts, specifically for District 2 for some increase in services that we've seen, but then for the balance of the districts for some capital needs that we have due to COVID-19. But we're happy to take questions that you may have.
Yeah, I have a couple. How much does it take to assist per client? Do you have a rough estimate of how much that cost is per client?
Yeah, actually, it's interesting. Thank you, Chair. We are working on that right now to really understand how much does this really cost. It's in the range of, depending on the type of case, can be anywhere for an extended service case, anywhere from $3,000 to $10,000 to represent a client. It's a lot of hours as appearances in court, depositions. It's almost all in staff. 85% of our budget is in our staff.
Okay. So, but you did mention that you have volunteers.
We do.
Okay. Are they lawyers?
They are. We have volunteers who are not lawyers also, but the volunteers that we highlighted in the presentation are lawyers, and volunteer lawyers handle about 15% of the cases that we handle overall. So it's a very important piece of what we do, but it's a small piece.
Is there any collaboration with the law school, John Marshall, getting people in as volunteers?
Yeah, there is. Actually, you want to talk about law students?
Yeah, we work very closely with both Case Western Reserve and Cleveland State. And right now, we have about 325 law students who are active volunteers with us, which is quite healthy, given law schools have actually become smaller in size in the last decade. And law students help us. For instance, at Fatima Family Center this past weekend, law students come and help greet clients and do an initial intake. And it's an experiential learning process for them. They have to learn how to interview. Then they have to come and present to a team of attorneys the case that was presented to them, and then they sit alongside the attorney while the attorney provides counsel to the client. So we're really proud of our partnerships with the law schools, and I know they appreciate very much the opportunity we have to get them into the community.
My final question would be, do you have a waiting list for those that you turn away? You talk about about half of the community you have to turn away.
We do not operate with a waiting list, in large part because legal issues tend to have an immediate something is happening, so having a waiting list doesn't serve the community. Instead, what we do is we have developed what we call case acceptance guidelines to connect the type of cases that we're going to take on with those goals that I articulated from our strategic plan. And our goal is that two people with the same issue calling on different days get the same thing from us. And so people are pretty quickly told, we're able to handle your case, here are the next steps, or here's our advice for you, these are your options, or I'm sorry, we don't have the resources to serve you. Here's potentially another option, generally not a legal option, although if we think a private attorney might take it on, we refer them to the Bar Association. But if we're not able to help somebody, maybe they can get help with accessing food or so we refer them to 211 and to other partners for other things other than legal assistance.
Okay. Councilwoman Stevens.
I have two kinds of things to say to you, a couple of questions and then a comment. With the assistance that you've been able to give a lot of our housing providers, as well as the city of Cleveland, several of the suburban communities, and the county, what is it you think that we missed that caused us to have, especially with the eviction process, the biggest barriers? And how are we solving, under your leadership, some of those barriers, reducing them?
Sure. We've been working very hard to prevent evictions, especially in this new post-COVID era. In terms of opportunities that I think we still have, I think collaboration between the county and different municipalities, we have a lot of opportunity because evictions are a uniquely municipal function. It happens in a local municipal court. If there's legislation, for instance, for a right to counsel, that's legislated by the local municipal body. But then, as we work to prevent evictions, ideally landlords get paid and rent assistance and property taxes then get paid. And there's less pressure on our health and human services in the county because homelessness services are not perhaps as stretched, right? So there's this interesting tension between cities making a move to create eviction prevention programming, but yet the cost savings that is realized by the county is it's not communicated between, I think, the two. And so there's opportunity there for more collaboration, and legal aid's doing a lot, as you know, Councilwoman, to help connect the dots between some county leaders and our local municipal leaders who are very interested in making changes locally. But I think we're going to all have to collaborate collectively, the local courts, the local leadership, along with county leaders, to really continue to elevate Northeast Ohio as a leader nationwide. Right now, we have cities from across the country calling us, interested to know what we've been doing to move the needle forward on homelessness prevention in Cleveland, and we can do, I think, even more.
So, given that our state legislature has reduced home rules value regularly in the last 20 to 30 years, do you think it would be possible for a county to do eviction prevention legislation?
So that is a really great question, and actually a colleague of mine at the invitation of the county executive, I think in last year, did some analysis about the county's ability to pass source of income and legislation and pay to stay legislation in particular. And those are that's legislation, source of income being making it unlawful for a landlord to turn someone away because they get SSI, for example, or their income is childcare. And often that source of income is a proxy for discrimination. And pay to stay legislation would require a landlord to accept payment, as opposed to saying, I'm not going to accept the payment and I'm going to evict you. I'd be happy to share that memorandum that went to the county executive because of the county's, I'm no expert on this, but because of the county's charter, there are different leverages that the county has versus the municipalities. But I think that one thing is that the county has, has a bully pulpit and has leadership in all of the municipalities. So what the legality is one thing, the saying we should do this as a community. And I do think that there's, in response also to your earlier question, Councilwoman, we have set up this system where we have people who are tenants and people who are homeowners. And people who are homeowners, who are much more likely to be white, have so many more rights to stay in their home versus tenants who tend to be people of color and people of low income. And we act as though it's just a transaction. Moving you out is no big deal. It's people's homes. So I think the opportunity that we have missed as a society is valuing people's homes, whether they are renters or homeowners. We should not just think, oh, when can you be out? We should be thinking, how can we help you stay?
Thank you. So as almost everyone within hearing and YouTube range can tell, I have these very supportive tendencies when it comes to housing and the things that come with housing, the stability of lifestyle, the ability for children to have a basic place to live and grow and be nurtured, and that those housing units be good housing units, not full of code violations which bring healthcare risks to the family and the children. And so I see your guardianship in many ways in this field as the attorneys with the white hats. I mean, I think most Americans have jokes about attorneys, but you get fewer jokes than anybody else because a significant piece of your work is to defend a quality of life that needs more defense, not less. Because without appropriate housing, families begin to deteriorate and fall apart. And as you heard earlier, what the Hitchcock House does, for example, is to keep families unified as long as they can be and gives them a platform or a basis to grow back into their own housing unit. And so thank you on behalf of all of us for doing what's really tough work, understanding the landlord's rights, which are just short of constitutional, and understanding what families need, especially families who don't make a lot of money and the law is intimidating to many of them, even though it's supposed to protect them. So thank you for helping us do what most of us here today believe in. It's protecting our constituents to the best of our ability. So thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Thought I saw Miller first. Then.
I'll defer and go second.
Okay, well, I just want to echo Councilwoman Stevens' remarks and also bring attention and awareness to the work that you do in the reentry space for citizens returning to our county and seeking affordable housing and employment. So you didn't mention that, but I did want to acknowledge the work that you do in that space, and thank you for all that you do.
Oh, and to my colleagues, the executive director / president was just recognized regionally, and I'm blanking on what it was.
So likely you're referring to my recent appointment to the Citizens Advisory Council on Equity. So thank you. And yes, and Councilwoman, our reentry work is very important, especially in the over-incarceration culture that we live in, especially of Black men. Removing barriers for folks who are reentering our community, both for employment and housing in particular, is incredibly important. We work really closely with CMHA on their policies to ensure that barriers are as low as possible and removed whenever possible. And then sealing old records to make sure that people get a fresh start is very important for economic security.
Councilman Miller?
So, Madam Chair, my question is, to what extent when you learn of an eviction problem early in the process, are you able to engage in a process of negotiation with the landlord and hopefully work something out rather than fighting it out in court?
Quite often, the earlier somebody who's facing eviction reaches legal aid, the more we can do, namely getting access to rent assistance to help create that stability, make the landlord whole, work things out, and negotiate perhaps better terms of a lease if somebody had lost some income, ensure if, for instance, both the landlord and tenant want to have a mutual parting of ways, making sure enough time is available for the tenant to then have a softer landing, find a new place to live. So the earlier folks can get to us. We have been working with various municipal courts throughout the county when an eviction notice does go out, a stuffer to highlight the services of legal aid. And we've also been engaged in some communities where the eviction rate has been higher, with some community partners who go and do door knocking to make sure people know what their rights are and encourage them to seek the assistance. Because when we do represent somebody, first of all, they're more likely to then engage with the process and actually have their rights enforced. But also, as you could see by the statistics we showed, overwhelmingly people's homes are saved.
Thank you.
For the individuals who are facing evictions that have mental or substance abuse issues, is there a partnership that you currently have with, because housing's not there. I mean, we're very limited on that. So is there a relationship that you have with the diversion center if they can identify this person as, get them back on track before they lose their housing?
Well, partnerships, first and foremost, as we highlighted, are really key to our practice of law. And so if somebody is not already engaged with another community partner, we do have client support specialists on our staff who are specially trained to connect our clients to a community partner to advance the goals of the particular case. So, for instance, housing is a great example. If new housing needs to be found, or we're working with somebody, for instance, who's a hoarder and needs help cleaning up a unit, right? We're really happy and thank you to the county for providing funding to Eden for new housing locators that are going to be based at Eden. That's going to help immensely. But what you did highlight in terms of there is just a dearth of affordable housing. So that is still going to be an uphill climb. With more formal partnerships, that we have referrals that come in from all of our local hospitals, for instance. So we have medical legal partnerships where legal aid attorneys and other staff are actually embedded within Metro Health, St. Vincent Charities, Psych ED, University Hospitals, and the Cleveland Clinic. We train medical providers on how to spot legal red flags in their cases so then they can make referrals to us at the appropriate time. And our attorney's office is right there adjacent to the pediatrician's suite, which is really cool. And so, so either way, however clients are getting to us, there's other supportive services involved.
All right. Any role you play, any partnership with the Juvenile Detention Center?
So we do work with kids who are involved in the juvenile justice system in a number of ways. We don't represent youth in their juvenile court case. That's the public defender's office. But we work closely with the public defender's office, juvenile court office, referring often on education cases, again, making sure that kids, because we see that school to prison pipeline, when kids drop out of school, they end up in the juvenile court system. And so keeping them engaged in school is really important. We also have a couple of other partnerships with the public defender's office where they're identifying where is this defendant or their family, where is there a civil legal issue that is complicating the criminal issue. Often it's housing, access to housing, removing those barriers. And then finally, of course, there are a lot of custody issues decided in the juvenile court, and so that's a role for us also. I think there are more opportunities for us in juvenile court, and that's something that actually in our new strategic plan we're leaning into a bit. Not sure exactly where that's going to lead us, but it's one of those things that we pride ourselves in, is that when we identify there's a community need, if we're the right organization, and sometimes we're not, but if we're the right organization, we need to figure out a way to meet that need.
Just one more thing. I don't know if you're familiar, but hopefully you're a partner with UH hospitals. They have the anti-fragility program and deals with gun violence and things of that in the home, but they also help connect those families with housing and things of that nature. Where I would see you guys coming into play is who is that representative, that legal. Did you know about that program? I always try to strengthen programs.
No, thank you. I don't know about that program, but I will connect back with my colleagues. We have
Dr. McDavid, isn't it?
Lolita McDavid.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Melanie referenced our partnership with UH. We have an attorney who's at the UH Rainbow Center on Euclid.
Yes.
And so we have that regular presence, and we're seeking to grow that partnership. So I will connect with Danielle and make sure we're connected. Thank you.
All right. Anything further? Seeing none, hearing none. Thank you for coming out. I always like to have a presentation, but as I told the executive director, Cotter, is that, when residents call us or our constituents call us in regards to legal issues or things of that nature, and they tell me, well, I went to legal aid, because that's my first response. You need to go there. And then they say, well, they couldn't help me. They turned me away. And so that's what precipitated me reaching out into understanding why that occurs in certain cases, and to be understanding, but then also to try for us to work out how we can improve collectively. And then you mentioned about case acceptance guidelines. Could you send that to the committee? You could send it to the clerk, and she'll.
Yeah, we have some great materials that we can send that are sort of synopses of the types of cases so you can communicate with your constituents. But I will say one last thing about that. We will also send our calendar of brief advice clinics. When someone comes to the brief advice clinic, they sit down with a lawyer. We might not be able to represent them in the case long term, but they will at the very least come out of that situation having gotten advice and counsel from a lawyer. And people with a lot of money pay a lot for that kind of information and advice so they can make good decisions.
And sometimes that part right there doesn't translate over to us. They just say, I couldn't get help. And they don't say the other part. So it's just good to have a good understanding.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry.
Yes, Councilwoman.
I'm on your mailing list, and I know via your calendar, you focus on specific issues in the community. I forgot what you're focusing on this weekend, or was it last weekend? But they have these clinics that they do where they're working on something very specific.
Expungement, I think I've seen in the past.
The majority of our clinics are general brief advice and referrals. So like what I mentioned at Fatima last weekend was general, but then we do have clinics aimed at veterans. We have one coming up soon at the LGBT Center that we're doing specific outreach in that community because there's unique issues that can be presented. And, you know, over time, there are specialty clinics for sure, but the majority, like 80 to 90%, are all open to anybody for who has any question.
Thank you for coming. Thank you so much. All right.
What? Oh, I do. Miscellaneous? Is that the
Yes,
time?
miscellaneous.
Okay. I just wanted to mention that the County Council would like to acknowledge August as Child Support Awareness Month. We acknowledge the efforts of our local child support enforcement agency and encourage all citizens whose lives are impacted by the need to provide support to a child to join in the efforts to improve the lives of our children and families in Cuyahoga County. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Didn't want to close on that note. That's a good reminder. And you said that's this month or August?
August.
August, okay, good month. It's the month I was born. So without anything further, this meeting is adjourned.